Hi, I'm Victoria Gracie, and this is Eve Gracie, and we are here today to talk about cultivating resilience with our special guest, Valerie Black. We've created this Women Empowered program as an extension of ourselves and the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu that has been a lineage from the husbands that we were so fortunate to bring into our lives. But we've realized that self-defense doesn't end on the mat.
It doesn't.
It expands to other places of our life, including our hearts and our minds. And cultivating resilience is something that we believe could really build the humans and the women that we want to be. So we have expanded a lot of what we want to do on the mat, off the mat, and to connecting with other women. And so with that, we proudly introduce Valerie Black, who is an incredible, I want to say, pinnacle of all the women we want to be.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I personally met Valerie through Eve, actually.
Yes. So Valerie's family is a long time family that basically we grew up together. My family and Valerie's did, and Valerie comes from a family of just like amazing women, and she has of course continued that, and just so lucky to have a woman like her in my life. And so when I have amazing women, I like to share them with my friends.
Yeah.
With others.
And I'm so lucky to be get all the byproduct of all of her amazing friends that I could just list completely. But I want to read a quick thing about Valerie, because what she has done is beyond anything that I could just say with my interpersonal connection with her, because I work with her weekly, just to give you an insight onto how deeply I benefit from this woman. I work with her weekly, and she's helped build my connection with myself beyond what I even thought was possible. But Valerie Black has also been catalyzing transformation for groups and individuals for over 20 years. And after starting 2 successful health and wellness studios in Chicago, she moved to Seattle and became the co-founder of the Chief Visionary Officer for disruptive healthcare company Vera Whole Health. There, she helped to broker deals with Seattle's Children's Hospital, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Virginia Mason, Trident Seafood, City of Kirkland, and led many innovative initiatives for the company. Today, Valerie is the founder of the Change Agency, which provides coaching, consulting, and training for individuals and teams. Valerie's work focuses on building resilience, increasing vitality and engagement, addressing employee burnout, and improving impact through culture change. In the past year, she's spoken at Washington Medical Association's Leadership Conference, moderated on the panel Workflows and Clinical Trials for the AI in Healthcare Summit, and delivered the keynote for a major hospital group's Innovation in Healthcare Expo. She is the author of several training programs in yoga, nutrition, coaching techniques, and emotional intelligence trainings for physicians and team leaders. Her book, The Change Agent's Handbook, was released episodically on Patreon, if you want to watch it, 2017 to 18, so you can check it out there. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this woman and how much she has helped build a home in my heart for my inner child and myself. And so with all the joy in my existence that exists right now, I welcome Valerie Black. Please unmute yourself and join us. Yay!
Thank you so much. Such a beautiful introduction. And I'm actually going to move my view so that I can see more of you all in my gridded screen. So hi, it's really lovely to see your faces. Thank you. This is silent applause. You're welcome to use it. I also like it when I say something that resonates with you, that you're like, yeah, that. And if it's resonates with you, but boo, you can be like, oh, I hate that feeling. So those are some ways that you can participate. I can see a little bit. I'm used to teaching in front of groups of people, and also doing small group work. And it's so different to not be able to have you in the same room. But Victoria and Eve and I were talking about how critical relationships are during this time, while we're all feeling our different kinds of destabilized. And so we get to see each other virtually, and that is going to be enough for us today. And we're going to go into some territories of the heart and mind that I'm really passionate about. And I'll offer you some of the tools and the skills that have been really profound in my life and in the lives of individuals that I've served and in the organizations that I've worked with. So given that, I actually want to have a little engagement with you in the chat, and Victoria is going to help me. Victoria and Eve are going to help me read your responses, because they might come in quickly. But the first thing I want to know is, why did you come today? And it doesn't have to be like a big headline reason, but just what made you do the work of flipping on your computer, getting here, making the space and time. So I'd love to see that in the chat and have a sense of why you're here. And if you're here because you trust Victoria and Eve and that's why you came, that's perfect, right? Like community and connection is a really good reason to show up. So if you're willing to give us a little bit of a sense of why you're here, that would be so great in the chat now. I know I'm here because I have been feeling just an increased awareness of how alone folks feel and how separated they feel from their communities. And I know that a lot of you get together in person to do your physical practice. And we know that human connection builds resilience. And so part of just being together is what can help us build resilience today.
Yeah, some people are saying that they came to connect to the women empowered community and that resilience is one of their favorite topics. And some miss Jiu-Jitsu and are healing from abusive relationships, or they're here to, wow, that was quick how that just comes in, learn about how to stay centered during a difficult time.
Yeah.
Connection, again, the topic very much, the connection with others, a deeper connection to myself, and a few minutes to learn. Self-care, time to grow and recenter so I can give back. Continued growth and connection, the community and the resilience, and the principles of women empowered. Beautiful. The themes of a lot of our chats.
Someone says they're feeling overwhelmed and they want to be surrounded by some strong ladies. Let's give them some waves. Like, yeah, absolutely. We're here with you.
I love that. I'm here to Gracie Black magic.
I love it. The combination. I love it. Good. So I got a sense of some of the things you're hoping for too. Resilience is one of my favorite topics because when I think about resilience, I think about the ability to bounce back and to get back up and to recover from the things that that knock us down. And I think about the practice that you all are familiar with together, the physical practice of jiu-jitsu, and how many times you've got to get back up, right? And that you're actually physically practicing it, and how important that is to also have that be a mental and emotional practice. And of course, they're interwoven. We could never really separate them, because I found in my yoga practice that sense of being in my body gives me a lot of resilience as well. But today we'll be talking a little bit more about the emotional and mental skills that come into resilience and how we can cultivate those. So the first mindset that I wanted to talk about today is going to probably be really familiar to all of you, but it's so nice to remember our intelligence and remember our brilliance. So this is the concept that change comes from the inside out. And the growth mindset is one that was really, of course, already present, but was discovered or articulated by Carol Dweck and a team of researchers at Stanford University. And they gave us this insight that there are really two kinds of people when it comes to growth. There are folks who think about themselves as pretty cooked, pretty like, I'm done. I'm an adult. I've arrived at my personality. I've arrived at the things I know and I don't know. And I'm sort of there, like I'm done. So if you have a sense that there are some people in your life who are like this, you might put like in the chat, like, I know one of those people, or like people who maybe you try to introduce them to new things or new ideas and they're like, that's not gonna fit me. That's not gonna be for me. You haven't even told them about it. Yeah, thank you. I see you. Right? So those folks have what's called a fixed mindset. The other mindset that Carol and the researchers identified is a growth mindset. And the growth mindset says, I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. I can change and grow and continue to evolve. Now, I'm pretty sure that all of you here today have a growth mindset, because you wouldn't have set aside time in your day to spend with us if you didn't have this sense that there was something that you could grow and get out of this work. And I'm definitely sure you've got it because you have a physical practice that's based on growth and change and evolution. But maybe what you don't know is that all the research proves that folks with a growth mindset like yours are people who are more resilient already. They know that they can adapt and change. They practice adapting and changing by learning. And they're actually more successful in their lives than folks who have a fixed mindset, which is a really nice thing to just remind yourselves that you're already at this advantage with your mindset. You might also consider, where are the places that I've gotten a little like stagnated or where I feel kind of brittle and maybe resistant to change. And in those areas of my life, have I decided that I'm a more fixed person, that I can't evolve? And we might consider like where might I want to shift more to a growth mindset in those areas. So that's a thing for us to kind of contemplate a little bit today. And if you've got paper, you might jot down, are there places that I've gotten a little bit less open-minded than I know that I would like to be? And man, I gotta say, for me, I'm noticing some rigidity creeping in as I'm dealing with the pandemic, because there's fear and there are a lot of things that are asking us to constrict or contract right now. So I want to bring compassion to that too, because even just going to the grocery store can be a constricting experience. Wearing a mask, trying to figure out how to not touch things, right? So I want to also say that there are times when a growth mindset feels really safe, and there are times when it doesn't feel safe. And we want to pick those environments that feel most safe to practice our growth mindsets in. And this is one of those places today. So the second piece I want to share, I'm actually going to share with you via a visual, because I think it's much easier to grok this way. So I'm going to share my screen and get into the PowerPoint here. I wanted to show you guys me in my early yoga days. So I started getting these concepts when I was a yoga teacher 20 years ago. And I started with the physical concepts, and I really started evolving into the mental and emotional concepts. So we talked a little bit about why you're here, that changes from the inside out. Oh, I want to make sure I get to this quote. So I'm going to get you to the grid in a second. But I love this quote so much, and I bet it'll resonate with you. We are the means through which the world changes. When you pray for change, it's you that's going to change, not the world around you. And that really resonates with me, as every time I've gone through the desire to change what's outside of me because I've been frustrated or angry about what's going on, I have worked from the inside out and been able to make the change that I wanted to see. And so really that's what this work is about. But for those of you who like frameworks, I wanted to give you a framework for emotional intelligence. So what the heck is emotional intelligence? Let's give you the most classic definition you could have so you feel really scholarly this morning. This idea really started in 1987 at Yale. So there were these two researchers, Peter Slavoj, who was an emotions and behavior researcher, and John Mayer, who was an emotions and thought researcher. And at the time that they were working and doing their work at Yale, it was thought that there was one kind of intelligence, IQ, intellectual quotient, right? So the way that we measured how smart people were was through their IQ. Maybe some of you have heard of the Mensa tests, or the ways that we think about IQ. So these men, they knew that there was so much intelligence available in emotions and in behavior and in the way that we relate to each other. And so they started working on a new theory of intelligence, and they called this new theory of intelligence emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence was really popularized later in about 1995 by a book called Emotional Intelligence. And the research that Daniel Goleman put together at the time really showed that this really cool thing that I think all of us really appreciate, because I know we care about emotional intelligence, which is that people who are emotionally intelligent are actually more successful both at work and in their relationships than people who have a higher IQ. So you can have both, right? You can have a high IQ. That's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. But it turns out that the folks who do the best in life are people with high emotional intelligence. And the other thing that I love is that emotional intelligence can be cultivated, and it can be learned, and it can be practiced. And for me, I believe it's a lifelong practice, and we get to keep adding tools to our toolkit. And I'm going to give you one of my favorite emotional intelligence tools later today. So this is the framework for emotional intelligence. It starts with self-awareness. Self-management is an important part of it. And you can see the top half of the grid is all about the self. The bottom half of the grid is all about others, because we know that we need to be intelligent emotionally about ourselves, but it's no good if we can't bring it into our relationships, right? Or it is good, but it's limited. So if I go around thinking that everyone is just like me, and then I meet someone who's very different than me and they behave very differently than me, I have a lack of relational intelligence, or what's called social awareness in this grid. And as a result, I might have difficulty in my relational management. So I might have trouble with the ways that I relate to people at work. And the bottom half of the grid really speaks to the skills that we cultivate to be good at doing things with others. So anything that comes into this whole grid is emotional or intelligence. And I like to think about lots of different tool sets nesting inside of these different parts of the grid that I teach, as well as some that sort of overlap the entire grid. And today we're going to be talking about a skill that I really love. And actually Victoria and I brainstormed like, which is the tool, which is the one? And we picked this one for you all because it's a big tool that we both use actually. And I've used it a lot during this pandemic. And it's called the 8 emotions. And we're going to get into that in a moment. And that one in this grid would fall into self-awareness big time, self-management big time, which we'll talk about after we work on the tool. But what's also cool is that it overlaps into your social awareness, and it helps you choose how you relate to others. So it goes down into relational management as well. So it's a really excellent tool. So before we go to the tool, I want to make sure that I talk a little bit about mindfulness, which is another word that we use a lot when we think about emotional intelligence. Really simple definition of mindfulness could be paying attention non-judgmentally to whatever is coming up in your field of awareness, your body, your mind, your emotions. And when we do this exercise later, we're going to be paying attention non-judgmentally to the emotions that we're aware of today. And I want to highlight that the non-judgmental piece is pretty important. Judgment takes us into guilt and shame, and we want to observe those things, but we want to watch them kind of like you would watch the weather outside your window. Instead of being in the storm, you're going to be kind of watching it from a little bit of a distance. And that's part of a skill that we use in mindfulness to better observe ourselves and to realize that we are not our thoughts and we are not our emotions. They're part of our whole experience, but there's something deeper that's core to us that we can drop into. And I would say the cultivation or the practice of the distance between the stimulus, which is the emotion, and the response we have is where emotional intelligence really lives. And when we cultivate this space and we get better at stimulus and response and the disrupt, then we have more resilience because we can do a better job of not making the mistakes or falling into the traps or the old patterns that don't work for us anymore. They might have worked for us in the past, right? But they're no longer serving us. So these are all big concepts that I go into in my work, and I'm going through them pretty quickly. And I love to dive into them, and we do that in a lot of the small group work that I do. But today I want to give you a taste of actually what the small group work feels like as well. Okay, let's do the 8 emotions exercise. So you will, I think, be more helped if you have a pen and paper to write this one down with. And we're going to go through 8 different emotions. What do I want you to know about this before we dive in? Don't be afraid of getting lost in this exercise. I will help provide the riverbanks for the energy of your emotions to flow between. And we will come back by the end of the exercise to a grounded place, and I will help guide you there. During the exercise, I will invite you to write about the things that you're really feeling. And because there's no one there to read your paper, be as unleashed and wild about the truth that is here for you as you can be. That's part of what will make the exercise more effective for you and a better use of your time. And if we get to a prompt in the exercise where you're thinking, I have no idea how to answer this, just skip it. You can just sit there and breathe and continue to think, am I having that emotion? I can't really find it right now, and that's okay too. And then sometimes you might be prompted to go back to one of the categories that we have passed, because you might discover, oh, I'm actually mad about this other thing, and that's fine too. So you have some freedom inside your own journal, of course, to do what you'd like. So let's dive in together. The 8 emotions, we're going to go through, as it says, 8 different emotions. And we're going to start with some of the more like classically negative emotions, and we'll end up with some grounding and positive emotions at the end. I will say before we start that I use this tool when I'm feeling what I call disorganized, when I have this sense that I'm feeling a lot of different things and I don't know how to catalog them or how to articulate to someone what I need. I also do this emotions exercise sometimes in the morning when I wake up. Lately, I've been waking up honestly kind of like angry and grumpy, and I don't usually wake up that way. And I'll just pull over my journal and start doing this exercise. And it starts to unpack and help me understand what is going on with me that day. So let's dive in. The first one is mad. And you're going to write, I'm mad that. And you're just going to start writing. I'm mad that this, I'm mad that that. And it doesn't have to be pretty or elegant. It can be a bullet pointed list, or it can just be an ongoing, I'm mad that this, I'm mad that that. And remember, no one's going to read it, and you can contradict yourself all you want. And so as you're finding things to write down that you're mad about, I'm going to also ask you to keep breathing in and noticing your body, and see if you can pull up and into words some of the things that you are mad about. So we're activating our whole field of awareness of our body to find little pockets of mad that we might have stored over here, might have lodged over there. Let's give this one like 10 more seconds. Remember, I told you you can always come back if you realize, oh, there's this other thing I'm mad about. And keep letting yourself feel that feeling. Like, let it actually be expressed through those words and through your field right now. Like, you don't have to hide you're mad right now. And take a nice deep breath with me. And let's transition into the next emotion, which is sad. I'm sad that, fill in the blank. Might be a repeat of some of the mad stuff. It might be totally new content. I'm sad that. And as you write, just practice feeling some trust in your body that you can hold all of these feelings, that we have space together between us in this container that we're creating, and that you're complex, you contain multitudes. I'm sad that. Take another breath with this one. See if you can just be in this moment of allowing yourself to be sad and express the things you're sad about. We are so incredible that we can feel all these different things. It's like really painting with one color for a while. We're just painting with this one color, this sad. We're letting ourselves be with that. Let's transition into afraid. I'm afraid that. I'm afraid that and remember, we're witnessing ourselves. There's a self that's witnessing these big emotions, and that self is able to hold all of it. And the other self gets to be afraid and gets to have that truth. Let's go into a little bit deeper into this dark cave. This is our last one on this side. I'm ashamed that, or I'm guilty that, I feel guilty that, or I'm ashamed that. This could be your shame personally. It could be the culture's shame. It could be things that other people do that you feel ashamed about. I'm ashamed that and sometimes as I do ashamed, excuse me, sometimes as I work through ashamed, I get thrown back to mad or sad. If that's happening to you, you can just write where you are in your journal. You can write, I'm also mad that this, right? So these emotions, they're like woven threads and they all connect. All right, take a big deep breath with me. You're killing it. This is so good. Like that grappling and hard work that you do physically, this is that work emotionally. And we're going to go to the other side of this investigation. And it starts with, I'm grateful that. And we can immediately feel as we turn from shame into gratitude, we can feel how our scanning and our lens changes. So just start scanning for, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful that. You might do a little check-in with your body as you're writing these and see if you've noticed the weather is shifting a little bit. It might not be so much. We just did a lot of deep examining on one side of this 8 emotions. A couple more things that you're grateful for, or grateful that. And as you write the next one down, let yourself really feel into that gratefulness. It might be relaxing your belly for a breath. It might feel like, oh, right, in my heart, I've got some resonance with that. That's also true. The next one is, I'm happy that. I'm happy. Happy, and it can be something small. I'm happy that I'm here with you. It's pretty cool. I've never done this exercise on Zoom before. You might find some overlap with things you're grateful for or not. Let yourself have some of that happiness permeate your body as you're writing this list. And if you can't find any more new happies, you might look at one of the other happies that you wrote down and just take a breath with that. It can also be true alongside all the other things that you wrote. Which really points to the complexity that we're capable of as humans. And let's go into the next one, which is proud. I think this is a word or an emotion that our culture is not super into women feeling, especially. But here in your journal, here on your notes, I want you to feel proud. I want you to go get it. What are you proud about? I'm proud I took a shower today. Sometimes showers are like a big deal during the pandemic. Yeah, I fed myself 3 times yesterday. I'm proud of that. So think of some things you're proud of.
I haven't eaten all the cookies in my kitchen yet. I'm really proud of that.
Awesome. And as you write, feel that emotion too. Let that emotion permeate. What is it like to have that emotion in your legs, in your feet? Hmm. And our last of the 8 is secure. I feel secure that, or I'm secure in this way, or I feel secure that. This one was really hard for me when I first started learning how to do this exercise. And I'll offer a couple. Um, you might feel secure in your ability to show up for people you care about. Or you might feel secure in your smart brain that likes to learn new things. There might be some traits or some attributes that you trust about yourself, that you feel secure in. It doesn't negate the insecurity that you might have other places, but it is a part of you. And if this muscle feels a little bit less strong than the muscles on the other side or in other emotions, you can just notice that. And we can notice, yeah, this is different, and see what that feels like to have it be different. And there's when that non-judgmental request comes in for mindfulness, and we're just watching it, I'm just curious about it. What do I feel secure about? All right, take your last couple bullet points or things to note. And when you're ready, you're going to put down your writing instrument, and you're going to move sort of just away from the page. So it's there and you've got some distance from it. And then if it feels safe and good for you, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And if it doesn't feel good to close your eyes, you can focus in front of you, not at the page that you just wrote on, but just maybe soft gaze down into your lap or at the floor. And just take a few deep breaths with me. I'm seeing some of you like holding your body, and you've inspired me too. So I'm going to put a hand on my heart and a hand on my belly. So I have all of those things. I have all of those emotions inside me. Sometimes I can access the whole range of them, and sometimes I can't. And all of that is okay. And we all just separately and together increased our emotional intelligence muscles by increasing our self-awareness. We just increased the field of awareness. So I'd love to just breathe some gratitude into my body, and I offer you the same. Thanks for doing that with me, body and mind and heart. When you're ready, you can release your hands if they're on your body, and you can start to open your eyes again. And I'd love for you to look around you and just see, like, what is it like around me? I know what it's like on the screen, but, pick a color that you're seeing particularly clearly right now. Maybe let your eyes rest on it. I've got some bright orange in this painting in my room. And next, go find a texture around you. Ripples, bumps, a weave of some kind. This will all help bring you back into your place. And then when you feel ready, bring your eyes back to the group and the screen. And I'd love to hear in the chat what that was like for you. The good, the bad, all of it. Like, you don't have to impress me or be any certain way. I'm approaching this with non-judgmental curiosity. So I'm curious, what was it like to do that exercise? Um, and was there anything that you observed that would be worth sharing with us? We have a little bit of a delay on the chat because people are thinking. So I will say that when we got to secure, I just thought about how when I've been doing this exercise recently, the things that I felt secure about have changed a lot since being in quarantine in my home. Yeah, you really felt the emotions as they were given in each prompt. I love that. That you let yourself feel them. That's a really beautiful way to enter the exercise. Christina says, for lack of a better analogy, an emotional roller coaster. Right. Yeah, totally. And I want to talk about that for a second, because we went from a pretty calm place and we like took ourselves on the roller coaster, which cultivated some self-awareness for us in this moment. I also said that I use this tool and I recommend this tool for my clients when they're already on an emotional roller coaster, but they have they can't find their way. And so doing this exercise helps put some of the emotions kind of into spots where we can label them. And we know that labeling in the mind helps us get out of the amygdala, the fight, flight, freeze response, and brings us up into our prefrontal cortex, which is the governing response, where we can have a lot more curiosity about what our experience is. The integration of all the emotions is very comfortable and yet stimulating, says Diana. I love that. I'm reading Lisa's, I could feel my body tensing up and my breathing getting more strained with all the negative thoughts, only to have it switch with the positive, my breathing becoming more relaxed and my body loosening up. Really gorgeous observation, Lisa. Thank you. Yeah. It's incredible when we let ourselves feel things. I don't know about you, but it's been really hard to access my mad. I've been sad a lot, but it's like I don't feel like I can be mad because I'm in a small space with the people I love and I don't want to express it. So in our exercise, we can really like let ourselves feel the anger, and we know how healthy that can be. You're giving me so many beautiful things in the chat, and I actually want to open us up to a group conversation and have Victoria help me moderate it and have you ask questions about this exercise. And let's just reflect on it a little bit together. And then we can expand into a deeper Q&A about emotional intelligence if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you, Valerie. If anyone would like to speak or share what they wrote or ask some questions about this emotional intelligence, that you can use the raise your hand option. I will share real quickly, Valerie. This has been a emotionally shifting exercise for me in my life, because I was allowed to have the emotional curiosity to really feel everything I'm feeling. And many times I believed in my life that I must feel happy, and I almost have to force the feeling of happiness to push into that even more. And this was like, no, it's okay. Where is the anger? Where is the mad, the sad? Find it, feel it. What about? And then I realized that not only was I angry about things and sad about things and even afraid, that those could all exist simultaneously with gratitude and happiness and being proud of something. And that was something that I really loved. So if there's anyone who would like to raise their hand or set right in the chat if they want to ask about what they wrote, because I'm seeing some of you.
Yeah, what I'll just say as well, and add on, and basically right along those lines, I've been feeling basically a lot of difficulty expressing or feeling comfortable with any emotion other than gratitude, because recognizing, okay, I'm healthy, I'm alive, my kids are, and almost not even allowing myself to feel these other emotions. And so right now, I wrote in the chat, and I saw a few other people too that were like, wow, I didn't realize how angry I was, because we don't let ourselves feel that often or express that. And that was the one that surprised me, of like how much just flew off the pen.
Yeah. Like I saw someone else wrote what you said that as well, right? I find myself feeling a lot more anger. That was you. What was it?
And Bethany.
Bethany, that's who it was. I was reading. Bethany wrote, I was surprised by accessing the anger emotion. I don't go there often. And I would say that I don't feel like I'm allowed to go there often. Like, okay, well, if I show anger, what are my kids going to think? What is my husband going to think? I'm going to get these reactions from people that also I don't necessarily want reactions from.
Marissa's was interesting. I didn't realize how difficult it was for me to distinguish between happy and grateful. I'm curious as to, like, Valerie, how you might distinguish those. I mean, either in like an official sense or like in terms of how we can identify those. And of course, there likely will be some crossover, but
yeah. Well, in my work with clients, I use this book called The Language of Emotions, which I really love. The Language of Emotions is the book by Carla McLaren, and man, she taught me so much about emotions. I think there's a lot of different ways to learn about emotions. There's looking into yourself, which is one of the primary data sources, right? Incredibly valuable. And also living in a patriarchal, colonialized society where there are lots of hierarchies. Many of us in this Zoom room feel like there are things that we're not allowed to express, or not encouraged to express, or definitely penalized when we express them. So Carla's work helped me understand, for example, that anger is about boundary setting. When I feel angry, it's because someone has trespassed my boundary. And that emotion is very instructive now to me, to tell me that there's something for me to do, there's something for me to take action on. Happiness can also be a really complex emotion for women. And I think actually for most people who are raised in this like Western society, because we've been told to behave in a happy way or in a grateful way, just like Eve was saying. I mean, the ways that a lot of us are having trouble really truly appreciating what we have, because we also have so much sadness and so much grief. But it feels like we're only allowed to be on the channel of gratitude because we're healthy and you have healthy kids. And so what we notice about that is that happiness, true happiness and true gratitude are like heavy, beautiful, like body felt sensations for some people, or they're like expansive, bright, light sensations for some people. And some people have this wonderful dance of both of them. And that we don't even know what maybe our body really wants happy to feel like until we've allowed ourselves to really be with that sensation multiple times. I might think about it akin to like a yoga pose, like down dog for the first time feels really different than down dog the 1,000th time. And I start to really embody that pose in a way that gives me so much new insight about what that feels like. Just the same way the emotion of happy becomes bigger and broader and more dimensional as I allow myself to explore what happiness can really feel like.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Valerie, for that. We do have someone raising their hand. Miss Alicia,
Great.
do you mind unmuting yourself? Or I can unmute you. There you go.
Yes, Valerie, I want to thank you for giving us time for the first prompt, mad, because immediately I thought, I don't feel mad. And the more that I delved into it, well, the first thing I wrote was a judgment on why I was mad. And then as we got down to ashamed, that really unlocked more of the mad, which is what you said, and I gave you like little hands. And so I appreciate that, and just taking the time to go through them. And then things really turned around when I shifted to the grateful and happy. And like you said, like happy can be just something really simple. And like, I'm really happy that I ate French toast this morning. So that, and I thought about that again, and it still makes me happy.
Yay.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, I want to actually deepen what you said, because you've offered this beautiful insight, Alicia, around shame and anger. So one of the sensations that I have being assigned female at birth and identifying with my femme gender is that shame is a much more permitted emotion for me than anger. Being sorry, being oh shoot, I did that wrong. Oh, you're right, I should have done that better. Oh, you're right, I don't know enough about that. Man, are women told that that is an okay feeling for them to have? But mad, not so much, right? Diana wrote in the chat that like men get to access their anger safely, which I have a lot to say about, actually about how we can create compassion for that being like some of the only notes that men are allowed to play in their emotional, symphony. But when we think about the ways that that women are encouraged to conform themselves or change themselves to be what others expect of them, we're really familiar with shame. And when I need to access my anger, I often go through the door of shame and start figuring out what I'm ashamed about. Then I look at it and I'm like, I shouldn't have to feel ashamed about that. That's not a thing that's mine. Oh, now I'm mad. I'm real mad. And that is a really important emotion for us to be able to feel right now, because anger changes things. Anger is a catalyst, and anger has us thinking about what actions might be important to help us change the world. And I would say that that's some sacred work for women to do right now.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. So many things that there could be anger at, and so many ways that we can heal personal trauma, childhood trauma, and generational trauma by just letting this anger out. And my goodness, when you gave me permission to do that one day, I was like, yep, gonna feel it. Let's do this.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be at someone, right? Like, a lot of the work that we can do is to figure out how our anger, while it feels like it's about my partner or my job, can actually be more complex and be about systems. But we need safe spaces, like Victoria was talking about, where Victoria can be mad at what she thinks she's mad about first, and then can start to create and deepen the field of awareness about where that might have come from. Because when we sublimate the sensation when it first arises, we actually can't learn about it. We press it down. We don't get curious about it. And that's where this work can be so transformative for folks.
Yeah, thanks, Valerie. We got another raised hand from Natalie. I'm going to unmute you. You want to ask a question?
I think she's still muted, right?
Oh, she has to approve. Hi, Natalie. Did you want to ask your question?
Actually had a tendency to get angry a lot, and what it was a kind of like a survival, like in the coping mechanism for moments when I had to protect myself kind of thing. But then she's like, yeah, you're supposed to drop that shield when you go back to your regular life functions, and like the anger kind of sits with you sometimes if you're more inclined to feeling anger than the other ones that are actually something that's harder for me to deal with. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that whole theory?
Natalie, I want to make sure we understood you correctly, because the internet's kind of cutting out on your end. I think you're asking about, you tend to feel anger more than the other emotions. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're asking about what was your question in terms of that?
Well, I've heard that it's a secondary emotion for some people, as in like it's a cover, it's a tool for like getting things accomplished while you're feeling a strong emotion and getting through it. But then sometimes if you hold on to it for too long, it just takes over and you don't have access to the underlying actual what you're feeling, like shame or guilt or confusion or something like that. So I was wondering if you have any opinions on that secondary emotion, as anger as a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, Natalie, no, you're doing great. I mean, it's such a good question. So I have learned that there are some people in my life who, when they exhibit anger, when they demonstrate like red face, shaking hands, big words, what they're actually feeling is fear, like deep, horrible fear, or sadness, but most often fear. It's predominant in folks for whom feeling afraid in their family of origin wasn't a thing that was safe to feel. If your kiddo or your niece or nephew or some little person that you love comes up to you and grabs your legs and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so scared," and the person who is supposed to be their primary caretaker punishes them for feeling afraid, most often humans adapt a cover-up emotion for their fear. And anger is a great solution in our culture, because it creates space and a defense mechanism between the person that we need love and affection from, or safety from, which later becomes the world as we grow up, and the emotion that we're feeling. And like Natalie was so vulnerably and beautifully sharing, what can often happen is that we know ourselves then to be angry people, not people who are afraid. So if someone told you that you were afraid, you'd be like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm pissed. And then when we do this work, we start to actually pull back the layers and we actually start to feel, oh, there's this tender, sweet inner child there who is really scared and who has a lot of really successful adaptation mechanisms, or at least they were successful at the time, to help them convert that emotion into something that was, they could more likely get their needs met. It might be that the caregivers that young person had would respond and give them what they wanted when they were angry. But if they expressed fear, they didn't give them what they needed.
Thank you, Valerie. That was amazing. And I can totally see that a lot of my childhood anger was probably rooted in fear as well.
I wanted to just make sure that I also understood from, because I think part of Natalie's question also was kind of how do you come out of that? So if that is one of the emotions, and you can let me know if I was hearing you right, Natalie, but like, you're like, I can go there with anger, and it's, maybe it is a tool for you to, like, you know, a survival tool almost, but saying like, how can we transition out of anger, because that's what's been told, is right. And is she saying like, what is a better like resource to use the actual tools to heal that, so that we don't keep resorting to that? Is that the question, Natalie? Let's unmute her. Can you unmute yourself, Natalie, or have I restricted you?
Hi. Yeah, if I could just clarify, I guess a good question to kind of ask is, once we utilize that tool of being angry in a moment that might suit us, I think I am afraid of dropping myself into the sadness, or because of being alone, or because of not knowing how to come out of it, or not how. I'm afraid it will overwhelm me almost sometimes. Like even last night I had a thing where that was the case, and I'm like, what if I go too far? What if it comes over me too much and I'm too sad and I can't get back up? So like then I think the anger kind of sticks around too much, because I know I can get stuff done at least while I'm angry, but when I'm sad I'm like, shit. Is there a way to maybe the question could be, is there a way to kind of warm up to the sadness, or like, you know, phase in and phase out of it perhaps? Am I breaking up again?
You're doing great. I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, so I guess dropping too far into that, the actual feeling of sadness or fear, like, and then what?
Yeah, I want to speak to what you said about this sense that if we drop into something, we will get like subsumed or overwhelmed, or just we won't be able to come back up. Like out of your sadness, you have this concern that you won't be able to come back out of it. And I think this is a common thing, just to normalize the thing you said. It's very, very normal for people to be afraid of letting themselves drop into a big emotion that they don't normally allow themselves to feel. For me, it's anger. If I let myself get mad, maybe I will never stop being mad. Maybe there's so much mad in there that there'll be years of mad and I'll never be nice again to anybody. I don't want that. Or maybe there's so much sad that like I'll make a river of tears and I'll never be able to get out of it. What I have learned is that, and the research supports this, and actually the practice of psychotherapy supports this as well, that primary emotions actually have like a cycle in the body, where your body, when allowed to feel them, like when the floodgates open and you let yourself really feel them, they actually have their own natural tapering off point. So the body expresses and then actually releases emotion, which is very healthy. When, however, like you were talking about, when a secondary emotion is covering for a primary emotion, like anger covering for sadness or anger covering for fear, it turns out there's like a never end to that anger. So because it's like a shield for the fuel that's underneath it, that's actually creating the fire on top. So we need really skilled practitioners to help us figure out how to wade into those waters. And I love that you're investing in therapy and you're investing in yourself that way to become more skillful. I really believe in that. It's a part of my practice as well. And I've needed a lot of help from both group work that I've done and individual therapy that I've done, figuring out, you know, where can I wade in safely? And I think that when we're held by really skillful folks, both in community and individually, we can find the way to do that. And the good news is that all of those big emotions, they do have an end to them. That doesn't mean they won't come back, but they do have an end. And that sadness, when felt deeply, is very different than depression. The understanding in the literature right now is that actually depression is from the subversion of emotions that aren't fully felt until you just feel kind of dead inside. So it's not like that you're going to just express all your sadness and then never be able to get out of bed. That's a different thing.
Awesome. Thanks, Valerie.
I'd like to say, since we're looking for some questions, one of the big takeaways from this exercise is that you aren't your thoughts, you aren't all your thoughts, and you aren't all your emotions, right? They are like, you aren't just anger, you aren't just sadness, you aren't just gratitude, you're all of it. And there's a part of you that's bigger than all of it too. And I love this metaphor that Pema Chodron uses. I am the sky and everything else is the weather. So you are the sky, Natalie. You are that timeless, big, beautiful, open expanse. And your emotions are these weather patterns that come through you. Your thoughts are these weather patterns that come through you. And that can be a really helpful way for us to use these tools emotionally intelligently to start to understand that we're bigger than all of it and create a really big space for us to hold them in, which is exactly what mindfulness really is.
Thank you, Valerie. We also have another question or a hand raise from Alia. Alia, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, everyone. My question is, how do you maximize emotional intelligence? Like, I know this is just an exercise and these are like 8 emotions, but is there like, is there a way, well, talking through this exercise, it seems like madness is related to sadness and it's all just a shield for fear. So is there like, are there certain emotions that if you like can dive deeply into, that's how you achieve like your like supreme emotional intelligence, like the highest utility? Like, I know this is like a theoretical question, and I know there is no like, this is how you achieve highest emotional intelligence, because that's what AI is for.
And we all just want to be goddesses. So can you make us all goddesses already and just tap us in?
I guess what I'm asking is like, what are the emotions that like from this that like, I mean, I know like all emotions are great, but like, what are the emotions where like you should really focus on, I guess, when you are going through something?
I like the analogy that low emotional intelligence people have a couple crayons in their crayon box. They might have red, they might have blue, they might have green. But high emotional intelligence people have that big, like super duper crayon box that you get the kids that has like all the shades. It has like double-decker shade. That is our goal, is to have all the colors of the world to be able to paint our understanding of life with. Because our emotions are a technicolor experience. They're a potential world that we can understand and examine and play in and be artful with, because then you can take your crayons and you can be like, puce today. This one with a little bit of the brick color and yeah, a little bit of purple, which is how we become artful with our emotions and our intelligence. Versus the people you know who just scribble with red all the time. That's their primary emotional intelligence expression. Or like they like all red and then a little bit of green, but only green when this happens, right? So there is the optimization question is really like, do you want to be a person who has a lot to choose from? Who cultivates in yourself the expansiveness to be able to choose your reactions to situations, to be able to choose the way that you explore the world? Or would you rather be limited in your expression and limited in your understanding of why you express yourself that way? And the optimization actually comes into being more of an artist, I think, than being limited by what I was given when I came into the world because of the ways I've been taught to express myself.
Do it.
So this was for me a great like exercise in terms of emotional resilience and recognizing how we started here and then we went there and went now and we came back up here. So in a matter of minutes, basically we showed how resilient we can be. Yeah. I would say like right now, I think, and this is why this was such an important discussion to have and why we're so grateful for your time to join us and discuss this topic, because I feel like right now, resilience is really what it's going to be all about, not for us on an individual level, for us on a global level and global scale. But what are some of the other like tools, and maybe you won't be able to explain all of them, but like other tools when we are feeling like, how do I bounce back from this? And, whether it's as a business, whether it's as an individual, in terms of like that resilience training. And as you mentioned, a lot of us do it on the mat. And that's why a lot of people who, train, who are, or even athletes in general, have a level of resilience because they've fallen and gotten back up. Yeah. And, but how do we do that in our everyday lives when, especially right now, a lot of us don't have our go-tos. Like we don't have our jiu-jitsu right now, unless you have a training partner that lives with you. Or Zoom sessions, or Zoom sessions coming next week. Yeah. But yeah, so what are the tools that you kind of recommend and think about in this time where we really need to like tap into our resilience?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Eve. I want to acknowledge, first of all, that what you said about a lot of us not having access to the tools that we use to revitalize ourselves. It's a double, it's like a perfect storm of not being able to go to the studio and also having extra pressure from finances, from not being able to be as free with your communication, with your touch, all of that. So first of all, I'll say, I'll just acknowledge, like, we are in a really hard spot. We're in a bind. The reason, why would I take time to do that? Well, we know that actually part of what makes us more resilient is normalizing our experience. So the first thing to do is to not push away the truth of what you're experiencing. If your French toast is the best thing that happened to you today, and you start feeling ashamed or guilty or bad about that, you add a layer of challenge to what your experience is, versus being like, you know what? French toast, man, that was where it was at today. Right? And that's normalizing ourselves. So we often use therapists, coaches, other helpers to help normalize our experience. But one of the things we can do to help ourselves be more resilient and each other is to say, hey, it's okay to be exactly as you are right now. That's a really first kind of basic step that we can do without having to add much more of just the concept of doing it, right? The other thing that I would say is this is a great time to take on a mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is the biggest tool set that we have really for working on increasing our self-awareness, which is one of those big blocks in the emotional intelligence framework. And you all know a lot about mindfulness already because you've had to, in your physical practice, be curious about your body and about your sensations in order to change the way your body moves and the way you use it. So you'll have some advantages already if you don't have a mindfulness practice because you have such a physical understanding of what it's like to do that. Before too many other people drop off, I want to put in the chat an opportunity that you'll have to have 5 days of classes with me online that are going to be in your inbox. So you can have 5 days of resilience building tools that I'll send you. So there we go. Victoria just dropped it in the chat. So if you visit that page, you can drop your email address in there and it'll send you this 5-day course that I've created just for this group to cultivate some resilience. And that is a one-way channel, right? So there'll be videos and exercises that I'll send you in your email. But I'll also send you some information about how you can join me in a group coaching style like this on Zoom, where we can have some live interaction, which is a 6-week course where I teach some mindfulness and resilience techniques for right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Valerie. This is so beautiful to be able to share what I get to do with you regularly, but with so many people, but we go way deeper, guys. So yeah, if you guys get a chance, check out the link. I've put it in the chat there. You could also save the chat if there were any questions, or if other people's experiences in discussing what we discussed today was helpful to you. You can save the chat for yourself. And I just want to say a big thank you to Valerie so much for bringing your heart and your expertise. Yes, we'll do the
Thank you all.
And we're just really grateful that you're here, and for all the ladies who showed up to, share your energy and your vulnerability and your questions with us as well. It just shows
great questions.
We're not alone in this journey of life. We are all in this together, just trying to manage each of our own human processes and existence and experiences. And we're grateful for you all.
Yeah, we really are. Thank you so much for getting to meet you today. Like, part of my vitality and thriving is in getting to do this work. It's actually like what really gets me out of bed in the morning. So if you do feel like you also wanted to work with me privately, I have a couple more available spots. I really limit those numbers because we go deep. So you're welcome to find me at valerieblack.com. And I'd love to hear from you. It was really lovely to meet you via Zoom today.
Awesome.
And I also just wanted to thank Victoria and Valerie for putting this together. This was Victoria's idea. And again, like, it's almost when you've grown up with somebody so amazing, you're like, oh yeah, I forget that. Like, not everyone has access to
these people,
these amazing women. And so what a great opportunity to bring Valerie in and to share her with, we wish we could share her with everyone in the world, because we just know how much value you bring, and we appreciate you so much. And so, but for Victoria for coming up with this, and just cultivating this group of incredible women. And there may be others like this that we do in the future, and Zoom is just a different level of interaction instead of just us talking to a camera. So it's been so awesome to see everyone's faces and just to connect in this way.
So before we end, I would actually love to end with maybe a one-word feeling, either that you touched today, that you felt about today, or that you feel about yourself or Valerie or Women in Power, that you can just leave in the chat. And I would appreciate just to wrap up so that we can all see where everyone is leaving in this space energetically. And I do hope to create more of these with more guests, with more ideas in the future. So also, if you have any of those, you could email us, message us, any of the social media channels, or on here. But I love it. Inspired. It's okay to be angry, inspired, encouraged, gratified. You all rock. Peaceful, connected, grateful. Double gratefuls. Boom, boom. Hopeful, beautiful. I haven't heard that one in a while. That's wonderful. Thank you guys for sharing these answers. And safe. Isn't that like, that's like my rocking thing that I want to feel always. Acceptance. Hi, Tina. And gratitude. Thanks, Melissa. Growth. Grateful, loved, and supported. Star, you couldn't leave just one word. I like that about you. Be a little rebel. Singing, encouraged, empowered. You guys, this is what, like, I would love to cultivate for us on a daily basis. If you're not doing this emotional work yourself, find a group of women you can do this with. If not, you found it right here, because we hope to do it more. So thank you guys so much for coming, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you all.